Hi, I'm Lisa Leiter. In Chicago Business Today, the job market. The latest report from outplacement firm Challenger Crain Christmas shows that companies last month announced the fewest number of job cuts in more than a decade. Companies planned 34,000 layoffs in August, down 17% from July. It's the first drop after 3 straight months of increases and the lowest since June 2000, before the dot-com bust. Job cuts last month were 55% below where they were a year ago, certainly a positive sign in a sea of confusing economic data that leave everyone wondering whether a double-dip recession may occur. John Challenger joined me to talk more about the trends he's seeing in the local job market. So John, what does your latest layoff announcement report show us? Are we really turning a corner here in the labor market?
Well, in August, we saw just over 34,000 job cuts announced by employers, and that was the lowest number we'd seen in over a decade. If the economy came out of recession, it looked like companies just stopped letting people go in big numbers once the recession was over.
A lot of the job cut announcements in August were actually from the public sector, right? So the numbers would have been even lower were it not for that?
It really is true. 30% of the job cuts have come out of the public sector. Governments, nonprofits, especially state and local governments where they can't print money. So we're seeing major job cuts there.
Certainly here in Illinois, we've seen those public sector cuts, a lot of teacher cuts. Are those types of people walking through your outplacement offices here in Chicago? What are they saying? What are their prospects?
Well, it's difficult if you've been all your life in the public sector and now you have to contemplate the idea of moving, to a private sector job. We know even in other areas of the public sector, they're just as challenged from a money standpoint. So they've got to make that move, and they've got to then retool their candidacy to apply to the for-profit world.
So what other kinds of anecdotal trends are you seeing from the kind of job applicants you come into contact with? Are they getting interviews? Even are they getting second interviews? How are the job offers coming in? What are they telling you?
Well, there's still a lot of candidates competing for jobs, so we're seeing far more hires than we saw last year at the same time. But it does seem like it's a picture of a lot of people in jobs are much safer. There's not much risk of losing their jobs, but if you're out of work, you're still competing against, on average, 4 to 5 candidates is what the numbers suggest. So people are having to fight for jobs. They're taking often part-time work, maybe even giving companies what we were calling freemium as a way of saying, let me do a project for you, take a look at how I work, and that might lead to a full-time job.
Typically, we do see temporary work, those types of jobs pick up before the overall job market picks up. We really haven't seen that trend yet with the temporary market coming in full force. What are you seeing? Are we starting to get those increases there?
We have seen some temporary increases. They've not exploded, but that is certainly a sign. That's been better than the kind of numbers we saw during the recession. So it does suggest employers have demand, and when they do that, they're either taking some of their part-time workers, and there are a lot of people working at companies that can be given more hours, or they're going out and hiring some temporary workers, companies to get their work done. And sometimes, that's like an audition, and it can lead to full-time jobs.
Absolutely. Are we still seeing strength in healthcare and accounting? What other sectors are doing well?
Those are 2 great areas, but energy, kind of more broadly, is a strong area as the country goes for energy independence, and that covers power and oil and gas and maybe nuclear. Another area is just global companies, and so companies that can export their products and services, those companies are taking advantage of those new markets.
You've obviously been doing this a long time. How does this recovery look compared to others, and when do you think that we'll all start to feel like the recovery is actually happening?
Unemployment went up for about 4 months after last summer's, the end of the recession last summer, and then it's now come down from 10.1 in October of last year to 9.5. So we're actually doing much better. It's just we reached such a deep, difficult spot in this recession. It was so much worse than those previous recessions that I think for many people it still feels really tough out there. It is really tough out there.
Absolutely. Well, John, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And that's this edition of Chicago Business Today. For all of your breaking news, stay with chicagobusiness.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great Labor Day weekend. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.